There's a particular kind of tiredness that isn't touched by sleep. It's the tiredness that comes from not being able to picture anything ahead. Not hope, not disaster, not even mild curiosity, just blank. That's usually when people start calling it depression, not because there's something wrong with them, but because the future has quietly vanished from view. And when the future collapses, everything else starts to feel heavier than it actually is. Rollo May said depression is the inability to construct a future. Today isn't about fixing that, or cheering it up, or pretending that positive thinking will save the world. It's about how humour, the real kind, can reopen a door that's gone stiff. Not by force, but with movement. Depression doesn't always manifest as sadness. Sometimes it appears as flatness, indifference, losing interest in things you used to care about without drama, a sense that everything is effort, even neutral things. People describe it as, I don't feel bad, I just don't feel anything. Time compresses. Perspective narrows. Meaning contracts. You stop asking what next because your system can't see far enough to bother. And here's something people miss. Depression isn't always despair. Often it's rigidity. The mind loses flexibility and thoughts circle through the same few grooves. Everything starts to sound final. This is just how it is. This is who I am. Nothing will change. That's not truth speaking, but imagination suppressed. If you and I were sitting together one-on-one, I wouldn't start by asking how bad it feels. I'd ask questions like, when did the future start fading? What do you no longer bother imagining? Where has everything become overly serious? What are you absolutely humorless about right now? Because humour doesn't arrive when things are fixed. It arrives when the mind regains movement and flexibility. Real humour does three things psychologically. It creates distance, it restores perspective, and it reintroduces choice. Not jokes or banter, but that internal realization moment of, oh, hang on, I've been taking things way too seriously. Confidence doesn't come from ego-driven bravado here, but the ability to be able to laugh at your calamitous self. Confidence is your nervous system recognizing, I'm not trapped inside one meaning. That's why confidence and humour are linked. The moment you can see more than one angle is the beginning of healing from the inside out. And that's when people say, I don't feel great, but I feel like I have the space to breathe again. That's not recovery, but mobility. And mobility enables you to roll with the punches. Imagine a drawer that won't open. You pull harder, nothing. You assume it's broken, warped, or badly made, but usually it's just overfilled. Depression is like that drawer. Too much meaning packed into one position, no room to slide. Humour isn't yanking it open, it's taking one thing out. A slight shift, a sideways glance, a moment when you realise, I've been taking this far too seriously, when actually it's just nonsense. That tiny movement changes everything. The drawer still isn't fully open, but it isn't jammed anymore, and suddenly effort drops. So rather than trying to feel better, you might simply notice, where has everything become overly serious? Without changing it, just recognizing it, you might find humour doesn't arrive as laughter. Sometimes it arrives as breath. Sometimes as a quiet internal smirk. Sometimes as a thought of, this isn't the whole picture. You don't need to be positive. You don't need to perform resilience. You don't need to turn pain into a personality. You're just allowing the mind to stretch again. And confidence often follows, not as certainty, but as permission. Permission to speak, imagine, and to express yourself without needing it to land perfectly. And as you sit with this, you might notice even now there's a little more space than there was earlier. Nothing dramatic, nothing forced, just a sense that the room has air again. And perhaps, without effort, something inside you remembers how to tilt your head slightly, to see things from a different angle. Not to escape, not to deny, but to stay present with movement. Confidence doesn't announce itself loudly. Sometimes it simply says, I can express myself from here. And that's enough for today.